I I talk to him occasionally, but I just don't want to hurt him because it really did hurt him badly.
Julie, do you feel any differently about your father?
I don't. That man would give his life for me. I'm always going to be his little girl. But it doesn't take away the pain.
You're blessed to have this wonderful family and this wonderful bond, but it shouldn't have to be tested like that. That's the whole point. So coming up, Dr. Klein isn't the only one who betrayed the trust of his patients. We're going to meet a woman whose mother went in to see a different doctor for cramps and came out pregnant. We'll be right back.
5 years ago, I did a commercial DNA test. I started to see people with the last name of Davis popping up as matches. I realized that my mom's OBGYN was my biological dad. His name is Dr. Gary Davis. I felt like my mom had been violated. I'm really angry about it.
Dr. Donald Klein used his own sperm to impregnate patients dozens of times. He was given a 1-year suspended sentence because prosecutors said there was no law on the books specifically making fertility fraud a crime.
I would like a federal law banning what Dr. Klein did.
I do want to see the law change.
I do not think justice was served.
When people abuse the system, we need to regulate those actions.
Most of the mothers and most of the siblings do consider this a form of medical rape. We need to protect women.
Well, unfortunately, Carrie, Jacoba, Matt, Amber, and the rest of their nearly 70 siblings, fathered by fertility Dr. Donald Klein, former fertility Dr. Donald Klein, are not the only victims of this type of DNA disaster. Rendy's world was rocked when she started to look into her family tree.
My mom in 1982 was having some problems, and she went to her OBGYN, and he told her that she needed to have a hysterectomy, and she was like, oh, I can't have a hysterectomy because I want to have a family. And he said, if you want to have a family, you should consider donor insemination. I always knew that my mom had used an anonymous donor to conceive me, but it didn't feel like I had access to answers. 5 years ago, I did a commercial DNA test to find out more about my heritage. I started to see people with the last name of Davis popping up as matches. I thought that my mom's OBGYN's last name was Davis, and as the matches became more and more frequent, I realized that my mom's OBGYN was my biological dad. His name is Dr. Gary Davis. It changed the narrative of the whole story that I had believed my whole life growing up. I felt like my mom had been violated. I do think it's wrong. Since doing the DNA testing on multiple sites, I've connected with 2 half-siblings that are also children of Dr. Davis. I did not personally make contact with Dr. Davis, but I worked with a reporter for the New York Times who was running a story on this issue, and she contacted him. He answered the phone, and he said, that's interesting, I'll have to look into that, and then he hung up on her. He died of a heart attack 4 days after having that conversation with her. He was never really forced to confront this, and that's frustrating. It's been incredibly hard to process and accept the idea that my mom's OBGYN is my biological father. I've had this really consistent self-doubt the entire time. I'm really angry about it.
Well, Rendy, thanks for joining us. You've been listening to everything we've been talking about so far. You can relate to every bit of it, right?
Yeah, it's the same story. Same story, different